The director, a woman in her 50s with a kind but tired face, met them at the door. "You must be Malsun's family," she said. "I hoped you'd come." They followed her through the hallway. Crayon drawings covered the walls. Flowers, houses, smiling suns. Children's laughter echoed from the courtyard. It smelled of soap and rice, a combination their mother would have called the smell of continuing. "She volunteered here every month," the director explained. "Brought groceries, sometimes read to the kids. Never talked about herself. Just worked. Said her name was Malsun, like the morning sun." Yoonjung smiled through tears. That was her real name. The woman handed them a folder. Inside were bank receipts, letters, and a small photo of their mother holding a baby, smiling as if the world had just apologized. "She said this place was her fourth house," the director added. "Maybe the most important one." That night they sat again around Yoonjung's kitchen table, the photo between them. Each face reflected a different understanding of love, admiration, shame, awe, envy. "She was building homes while we were counting rooms," Kyeolsoo said. "We keep learning she was bigger than we knew," Yoonjung whispered. Myung-ho touched the photo lightly. "I used to think she built the houses to control us. Now I see she built them so we'd have somewhere to return when we failed." Sujin poured tea for everyone. "This money, 172 million, it belongs to the shelter." No discussion. No one argued. The decision came like breathing, natural, inevitable. Outside, snow began to fall again, delicate and obstinate, the season circling back as if to watch them get it right this time. They went as a small procession, Yoonjung with the passbook in a zippered pouch, Sujin with a neat stack of photocopies, Kyeolsoo with a pen he kept calling lucky, and Myung-ho with both hands empty, the way a person arrives when they want nothing to be misunderstood. The bank's glass door beside them in the lobby felt like a museum of numbers, quiet and self-assured. A clerk led them to a side office where the carpet hushed the sound of deciding. "We'd like to transfer the full balance of the supplementary account," Yoonjung said, laying the passbook on the desk as if it were a certificate of baptism. "To Dian Mother's home." She slid a paper forward with the shelter's account number, carefully written twice. The clerk, a woman with a gentle forehead wrinkle that looked like permanent concern, checked the book, the ID cards, the death certificate, the relationships. One by one, she nodded. "Your mother noted for donation in the remarks. She was particular. She was fluent in reasons," Sujin said, and her voice had a softened pride. "We're just following the grammar." The clerk smiled and typed. Blue light moved across the screen like small weather. "All right," she said at last. "There is one more thing. Your mother left a sealed envelope with our archives only to be released upon completion of final donation. Would you like to receive it now?" They looked at one another, unready, and yet always ready for their mother to speak from wherever she was. "Yes," Yoonjung said. The clerk disappeared to the back. Time practiced a little drama. When she returned, she set the envelope down with both hands, honoring its weight. It was cream paper, tied with thin gold thread, the way older women wrap things when they want you to understand this is not a bill. On the front, in their mother's handwriting, "To whoever finds love heavy." Sujin broke the thread carefully, freed the letter, and unfolded it. The paper had that faint scent of old books, a perfume made of dust and patience. She began to read, but the first line unraveled her composure. She handed it to Yoonjung, who steadied her voice the way she'd steady a ladder. "Children, if you are holding this, it means the last bowl has been washed. I always believed money is just a shy letter that wants to be delivered to the right address. I moved it toward doors that opened inward. You may think I gave too much. You may think I hid too much. Both are true because love has two pockets. In the left pocket, I saved for the day your shame would need a coat. In the right pocket, I saved for strangers whose names I do not know, because names are late to the party and hunger is not. If you argue, remember this: the houses were never mine. I only kept them until you were brave enough to keep each other." The room held the letter's last period like a candle. Kyeolsoo exhaled first. "She wrote better than all of us." He grinned helplessly. "Even when she was telling us to behave." "Two pockets," Sujin repeated, almost to herself. "Shame in a coat. Hunger without names." She wiped her eyes, then squared her shoulders. "Let's finish the transfer." The clerk processed the donation while the siblings watched the screen fill with confirmations: account verified, recipient validated, purpose noted. The balance blinked to zero. It did not feel like loss. It felt like a door that could finally swing on its hinge. "Would you like a printed receipt?" the clerk asked. "Yes," Yoonjung said. "One for us and one for the shelter." "And one for her," Kyulsu added. We'll put it on the altar. She liked proof. They stepped back into the winter afternoon. The city reflected them in 100 windows figures carrying an absence that had learned to walk. The wind rushed past with the smell of street food and traffic and the ordinary, and for a moment each of them felt lighter, as if the money had been a weight that belonged somewhere else. They delivered the receipt to Dian Mother's home that evening. The director met them at the foyer, still in her apron, hands damp from washing rice. She accepted the folder with both palms, then hugged Yoon-jung in a gesture that bypassed permission. She said her children were the kind of people who finished work, the director said, tears making a warm mirror over her eyes. Today you proved her right. In the common room, toddlers played with plastic cars while a young woman soothed a newborn with the rhythm known only to beginners who have already become experts. When the director announced the donation, there was no applause, just a sudden quiet, like the house had taken a breath. The young women bowed. One whispered, "Thank you, Halmione," to the air. Sujin crouched beside the toy bin and began sorting crayons into neat rows. It was a silly, gorgeous thing to do, and soon the others joined, stacking books, wiping a table, moving a shelf that had never been squared to the wall. The work took 15 minutes and would be undone by morning. It was perfect. Before they left, the director pressed a photo into Yoon-jung's hand. Their mother stood in the very spot where they were now, holding a pot whose lid asked to be lifted. Jige, the director said, smiling. She said love needs salt. On the back of the photo, in pencil, remember to add water if anyone else shows up. Someone always will. At home that night, Ma Eung-ho laid their mother's archive letter on his kitchen table, as if it might teach the room a new etiquette. He read it again until the sentences became a tune. 2 pockets. Shame with a coat. Strangers whose names are late. He had spent years as accountant now. He felt drafted into a ledger kept by Weather and Hands. He took out a blank sheet and wrote, not to the court, not to the bank, but to the boy who had once watched him without asking. Sejun, I have nothing to buy you with, but I have something to open. He stopped there, because truth without ornaments is shy, as his mother had said, and tonight he had promised himself to learn her language. Outside, ice formed a thin skin over the sidewalk puddles. The city hardened and shone. He thought of how often he had chosen hardness instead of shine, control instead of coherence, secrecy instead of shelter. On the counter, the kettle clicked. He made tea for 2, because habits are rehearsals, and one day he intended to have someone at that table to accept a cup. Yoon-jung set the bank receipt on the home altar between the small porcelain cranes and the brass rice bowl. She tucked the cream envelope behind the photo frame so the gold thread peeked out like a bookmark. Then she lit a stick of incense. The smoke rose and did that impossible thing. Smoke does draw a line through air you cannot hold. Signed for delivery, she whispered, borrowing her mother's phrase. Everything arrived where it belongs. The candlelight made the room soft. Shadows gathered in the corners not to hide but to listen. She poured barley tea and took the first sip as if it were a vow. Tomorrow would need ordinary chores, the grocery list, the laundry, the endless small laws of continuing. Tonight, completion had a sound, paper shifting under the weight of a receipt. An envelope sign closed the last ember of incense surrendering to dark. Later, the siblings met on a group call. That sounded like the old kitchen voices over clinks and the occasional laugh that embarrassed itself and stayed anyway. They didn't talk about money. They talked about the persimmon tree, about a loose tile at the shelter, about how Sujin had started bringing extra spoons to every gathering just in case. Someone always will, she quoted, and they all smiled like complicit thieves who had stolen their mother's best line. Before they hung up, Yoon-jung read the last paragraph of the letter again, slowly, in the way their mother used to read bus schedules, as if recitation itself could make the world arrive on time. If you argue, remember this: the houses were never mine. I only kept them until you were brave enough to keep each other.